Hello, welcome to Chapter 3. This first lesson is about marking diagrams. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to mark diagrams to show congruent sides, congruent angles, congruent shapes, perpendicular lines, midpoints, and angle bisectors. First, if we look at congruent sides, to mark them on a diagram, you'd use some mark here and here, usually a line. So we do a line there, and if there was another thing that was congruent, you would mark, say, 2 lines there and 2 lines there. Now to write this, what we'd write is AB line is congruent, or I should say segment, is congruent to segment EG. So AB is congruent to EG. Now when we're looking at congruent angles, we draw a little angle there. And sometimes we draw a line and sometimes we draw a second angle on top. So these two have the same markings, so we know they're congruent. So I would say angle ADC. So starting at ADC, that angle will be congruent to angle FEG. Now when we go to congruent shapes, if these two shapes are congruent, then we're going to say that each angle is congruent and each side is going to correspond with something congruent. Now, if you looked at E, E would match up with angle C. Angle F, let's use 2 lines, would match up with angle D. Angle A, we could do that, that's something people do, would match up with angle G, and angle B will match up with angle H. With your marking, you just have to make sure that your marking matches the marking over there. These are typically the 2 types of markings. I've also seen an angle with a circle through it also. Alright, now when we write this, if I said ABCD, so this quadrilateral ABCD is congruent to, we have to say what A is going to be congruent to. Well, A would be congruent to G. So when we write this, there's a specific order. G will have to come first. Then B will be congruent to H, so H has to come next. Then C is congruent to E, so C, and then, or I should say E, and finally F is congruent to D. Now this also tells us that side AB is going to be congruent to GF. AB is congruent to GF. And BC is going to be congruent to HE. So BC is congruent to HE. Then CD is congruent to EF. And then finally, the first and last, A and D, is congruent to G and F. Put 4 dashes on there. It gets kind of messy once it gets up to 4. Alright, perpendicular lines are 2 lines that meet at 90 degrees. To put this on a diagram, we just make a little box in the corner. And how we write it is we'd say CD is perpendicular, that's an upside down T, to AB. Now I know this is perpendicular like this, and that matches the drawing, but we use the same sign if this is down here. The sign always will look like this upside down capital T. Now if I wanted to mark the midpoint, I would put a point in the middle, let's call that M, and then we would show that this side, or this segment, will be congruent to that segment. And now we know for sure that M is the midpoint of AB. Now our last thing we want to look at is angle bisectors. This angle BAD is being bisected by ray AC. Put some arrows on there. So to show that this is being bisected, we can make these little marks here. show that these two angles are equivalent. All right, that should be enough information to get you started on the homework. Good luck.